Hello and welcome to Headliners, your first look at Sunday's news stories. I'm your host, Andrew Doyle, and joining me tonight are my comedian panel, Cressida Wetton and Nicholas DeSanto. Welcome back, Nick. You're not normally here, but pleasure to see you.
Thank you very much.
And Cressida, looking very florid.
Thank you. I've been doing Joe Wicks today.
Oh, so is that right?
The video, not the person. Confidence is up.
Very disappointing. Anyway, we're going to move on and have a look at the front pages of Sunday's newspapers first. The Sunday Times is leading with tougher A-level grading vital to halt university dropout surge. We're going to get to that in just one moment. The Sunday Telegraph has ministers want more barges for asylum seekers. The Observer leads with Channel boat deaths prompt fresh anger over asylum policy. And the Sunday Mirror runs with how many more must die before the Tories get a grip. Sunday Express, same story there. For pity's sake, stop the boats. And finally, the Daily Star goes rogue with Grandmasters of the Universe, something to do with aliens playing chess. Those were your front pages. So we're going to kick off with the Sunday Mirror. Cressida, what are they leading with?
They are leading with how many more must die before Tories get a grip. So we've had another Channel tragedy today, 6 more deaths. And people are saying that the Tories have got blood on their hands, and I'm inclined to agree with them. I mean,
it's absolutely horrible news, and it's one of these things that, you know, the Tories get a lot of criticism for not dealing with the fact that we have these illegal traffickers exploiting people. People are dying on the way over. But on the other hand, when they do try and implement some measures, they're also criticised as well. So
this is true.
What do they?
They can't win.
Nicholas, what do you think?
I think, well, Tories have blood on their hands. I'm not a big Tory supporter, but to be fair, you know, who else has blood on their hands? France for not controlling their coasts, departure countries such as Turkey or Libya, where Libya has turned into a highway towards the west because UK, France and Obama administration removed Gaddafi. There used to be some patrolling between the Italians and Gaddafi forces. Yes. So there are a lot of factors.
And, of course, the people traffickers themselves.
Exactly.
Let's not forget. So there's all of these factors going on here. It's very easy, isn't it, to blame the existing government.
Well,
and I'm sure, you know, obviously they are not eager for people to die, but they do have to do something. I mean, these are very vulnerable people.
Absolutely. I mean, it's just horrific, isn't it? 60 people in a flimsy boat going down at 2 a.m. You always imagine it in the daylight. No, it's in the middle of the night. It's just horrific.
Yes.
Yeah, and it just keeps happening. Thursday, 755 people. Friday, 343. Yeah. It's extraordinary.
OK, well, we'll see what happens. We're going to come back to a variant on this story later on because there's more stories relating to this. But we're going to have a look now at the Sunday Telegraph. Cressida, the front cover of the Sunday Telegraph has a story about asylum seekers, the picture of the lionesses who've won some sort of game, and then Kemi Badenoch. What's this story about Kemi Badenoch? What's this about?
Women only lose. Rule will protect dignity. That's women only toilets.
Yes. OK.
So Kemi Badenoch's come out and said there's going to be a rule where any new buildings or any retrofitted, done-up buildings will have to have separate toilets for men and women.
Right.
And apparently in a YouGov poll, 85% of people are pro this, and 35% think there should be unisex toilets available, and we've got unisex toilets here at GB, haven't we? Which is an adventure every day. I mean, I think having to stand in other people's pee is really character building, isn't it?
That's what I think.
What will we do? Anyway, that's what's going to happen.
But you know, isn't this a bit of a non-brainer? We should say so. Kemi Badenoch, Equalities Minister, pushing through. You know, and this makes complete sense. You know, why can't this issue of gender identity and toilets be easily resolved by saying you've got toilets for biological males, toilets for biological females, and then a cubicle-style toilet if you identify as whatever you want to identify as? Why is that such a difficult thing to implement?
Well, you wouldn't think it would be, but it turns out it's been quite the issue.
It has. And Nicholas, in schools as well, this has been particularly a problem because you have boys identifying their way into girls' toilets. And particularly at that time of life, that's not a good idea.
Exactly. And, you know, even for myself, the first time I came across this thing, I was doing a comedy competition at Goldsmith University campus. And that was the first time I went into a unisex toilet. At least here, maybe because our program is quite late, usually we've got the entire toilet to ourselves.
Yes.
Not embarrassing other people or getting embarrassed. But, yeah, it's a tricky time for teenagers. They are, you know, and you don't want, you know, any incidents to happen or people to feel already you know, God knows how uncomfortable teenagers already feel.
You don't have to be a teenager. The number of times you walk in and a gentleman comes out and looks shocked and thinks he's got it wrong. No, it's fine. That's where you meant to be.
Exactly. And so I in Italy, I accidentally went into the women's toilet, and a woman came in, and the look of horror on her face, and I suddenly realised what I'd done, and I'd realised that how awkward this makes people feel. It's much more of a big deal. And I've spoken to feminists who talk about this, that when there's someone who's obviously biological male but identifies as female in a women's toilet, most women won't confront that person or say, can you please leave? They'll just leave themselves.
Right.
And it creates that kind of awful environment. So I think people just need to think of other people a little bit when it comes to this. But like you say, the stats are really clear on this. YouGov, 87% want separate toilets for men and women, and 35% say, well, have unisex toilets for those that want them.
Yeah.
So that's
Everybody
a no-brainer.
Which would still be a burden on some smaller companies. That third toilet, let's not forget that.
No, they can just have, as long as you can lock it, you can have unisex. So if you just had one and you had a lock on the door.
OK, so let's move on now to the front cover of the Sunday Times. Nicholas, what are they leading with?
I've picked tougher A-level grading vital to halt university dropout surge. The subtitle says, almost 30% of students are quitting some degrees.
Yeah, I should clarify with this story. So it's to do with the pandemic, of course. So during the pandemic, a lot of teachers were grading their own pupils' papers and things, and that was becoming their A-level grade. So obviously, the teachers were kind of giving them, leaning on the benefit of the doubt.
Yes.
So Gillian Keegan, who's writing for the Times on Sunday, is basically saying kids are going to have to brace themselves because those grades are going to plunge. And we're talking here, there's going to be, they reckon, 75,000 fewer A-star and A grades this year than there were last year, and that 1 in 5 teenagers aren't going to get their first choice university. So, people have to understand that during the pandemic, although they were losing out on education, they kind of had it easy when it came to the grading. But didn't they?
Even before the pandemic, we've had this gradual trend of inflation in good, A-level trends, which then, I don't know if it's because of parents are more demanding and
I think
schools want to deliver.
No, I think it's to do with successive governments. Like every single successive government wants to say, we're great at education. So if they make exams easier, and they find that the grades are all going up, they could say, look, all the kids are doing really, really well under our watch. Because I used to be a teacher, and I promise you, some of the kids who were getting A's and B's, basically illiterate. I mean, they basically couldn't even pick up a pen.
Awful.
And they were getting A's in English literature, so there we go.
And then they're going off to university. I mean, I remember first year of university, you didn't have to do a lot, did you? You had to sort of turn up most of the time and get 40%.
If that.
So this is not good.
No, I think raising the standards would be a good thing. Not everyone needs to go to university.
Well,
at A-level, right?
That's
no,
true.
but they don't. I mean, we've had years and years of government saying we want to get the percentage up of people to go to university. Why? University is a very specific kind of thing. It's about academic rigour. It's not suited to everyone.
And with those expensive degrees we have, I mean, good for them if they are quitting or not going to. I mean, I don't want to, be too hard on humanities because I'm a graduate of humanities myself. But some of these degrees and the kind of debt that you end up having.
Oh, absolutely. I wouldn't do mine again now.
Are you suggesting that degrees like media studies and dance theory are not really worthwhile?
Never do a degree with studies on the end of the name.
But it got me to GBNews, so there's some value to it.
So what about this now? Sunday Express, half of the front page is devoted to the Lionesses.
Right, some good story. Fine. I mean, I like football. Some of my male friends criticize me for watching the tournament, but
Maybe.
So, but you're quite open-minded, aren't you, Nick? So you'll watch all genders when it comes to football.
Yeah, I mean, all the two genders that I recognize, but yeah, this is a good story.
So what have they won? Some sort of game?
Basically, the Lionesses, I think for the third time in a row, they are in the semi-finals of the World Cup in co-hosted by Australia and New Zealand. And they sort of redeemed themselves because so far they've been quite lackluster. They beat Nigeria, eliminated Nigeria in the previous game, which one of the commentators described as daylight robbery. You had to feel for the Nigerians. Today, against Colombia, they went behind and then they had a comeback. And so it was a good match, and they kind of earned their place in the semi-final.
Wow, so you actually watched this?
Yeah.
I mean, this is because look, to be fair, Cressida, I'm as indifferent to male football as I am to.
Oh yes, I don't watch any of the genders.
No.
So I'm very, very narrow.
To be fair, I was here for Esther and Phil's show early in the morning, so I had about 10 hours to kill.
Okay.
So I watched two matches.
You shouldn't have said that, Nicholas. Like, we were believing you were really progressive and with it.
I don't want to alienate my conservative fan base.
The one you're trying to cultivate. OK, then finally in this section, what about the Daily Star? I mean, they've really gone rogue today.
Well, aliens will be invited to play chess by boffins as it will strike up a conversation. Well, doesn't that say everything about boffins' conversational skills?
Yes, exactly.
How about going for a pint with the aliens? They don't want to do that. They've sent some kind of amazing message into space.
Yeah.
It's a lovely pun here. Boffins believe playing an extra chess-terrestrial.
Chess-terrestrial.
Can't even say it.
It doesn't even work.
It doesn't really, does it?
No.
There you go. So they think it will help us strike up a conversation with little
Nicholas,
green
I'm in
men.
no way wanting to stay too long on this story because it's absolutely ridiculous. Do you have any thoughts?
I blame #me too. You know, it's so much easier finding extraterrestrial chess partners than going and chatting up with a girl nowadays.
I mean, I don't know what on earth to make of that. But let's have a break. I think we need one. That's it for part one. But coming up, we have got Legionella, lesbian nana no-nos, and the AI revolution that's coming for us all. Don't worry, it'll be fine, probably. See you in 2 minutes.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel,
Monday to Thursdays on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
When the news happens, it happens here.
And really important breaking news.
Breaking news this morning.
On TV, radio and online, the news starts here on Britain's Newsroom.
All the biggest stories and the answers that you need from across the UK and beyond.
Join Britain's Newsroom from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
People in Britain, they love free speech, but they also love fair play.
I don't care if I'm speaking somebody from a trade union, from the Labour Party, somebody from the SNP. And I think the viewers like to see that actually we can challenge one another, but in a positive way.
We think we ask the questions that people want to ask, and often we ask the questions that we wanted to ask in Parliament but never got the chance to ask.
So join us every Saturday, 10 a.m. till noon on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, Nana, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment.
I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different. Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, your first look at Sunday's newspapers. I'm Andrew Doyle, and with me are adult human female Cressida Wetton and adult human Italian Nicholas De Santo. We're going to kick off with The Observer. What's this about the Home Office being startlingly incompetent? Ministers must say what was known of Legionella on Bibby Stockholm, says Labour. So Labour are deriding the Tories for their startling incompetence. As we know, 39 migrants moved onto the Bibby Stockholm and they've been removed because almost immediately it was discovered that there's Legionella's disease on board. This is the barge? This is the barge. The barge that, in theory, could hold, I think, is it 550 migrants? Yes. Not even a day's worth. But anyway, it's the barge.
So these people have been removed because they might get this disease. Symptoms include dry cough, confusion and diarrhoea. I think they'll all be confused, won't they? Get on the barge, get off.
Those are the symptoms, but it can cause death.
Yes.
I mean, this is very, very serious. I mean, how can it be the case that they haven't sort of dealt with this?
Well, this is exactly the question, and Labour are challenging them and say, you know, even if you left a hospital ward for a few weeks unused, you'd go back in and check that Legionella hadn't developed in the water pipe.
Yes.
It's a really basic thing.
We've got Labour, so the Shadow Immigration Minister, Stephen Kinnock, writing to the Home Office, also David Davis deriding the startling incompetence of the Home Office. This is a cross-partisan anger about this particular issue. I mean, it's not good enough, is it, Nicholas?
No, definitely not. Unfortunately, nothing is going the government's way when it comes to immigration nowadays. We know the Rwanda plan didn't work or has been bogged down, at least for now. And you know you're in trouble when Labour starts criticising your immigration policy.
Well, that's the other thing. I mean, this article, we talk about Kinnock. Stephen Kinnock is talking about how Labour would be able to solve this. You know, why don't the Tories just implement Labour's plans? Labour's plans apparently will stop the dangerous channel crossings, tackle the people smugglers, clear the backlog. How are they going to do that?
I'm anxious to hear that.
Their plan looks like bullet points of achievements, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Rather
exactly.
than there's no how-to.
That's not a plan. That's things they want to achieve. Exactly right.
This is the same Labour that predicted when we were opening the borders to Poland after they joined the EU that only 25 Poles would have come, and instead, you know, we had tens
exactly.
of
I want to
thousands.
see specifics when it comes to this. But I mean, also, although you know, he makes a very good point that there should have been a risk assessment, a basic risk assessment regarding health issues on the barge. I mean, that seems.
And this is after all the fire safety stuff we'd already. I mean, get a checklist, guys.
Yeah, you would have thought so. OK, we're going to move on to the Mail on Sunday now. Nicholas, this is about... Well, this is the story that went viral this week, and I've seen this crop up on Twitter pretty much continually. What's this?
Yeah, this is another sad story, and I've seen that video as well, very distressful. So the story is ongoing. The teenager, 16-year-old autistic girl, who happened to apparently, allegedly have called a police officer in West Yorkshire lesbian, or saying she looks like a lesbian, like my nana.
Exactly.
And her grandma is a lesbian.
Is gay.
Yeah.
And so she was saying this police officer looks like her. Now, it's a tricky one. The video is pretty harrowing because you have this autistic teenager screaming, hitting herself in the head. She doesn't want to be touched by the police officer. The police officer is saying, no, we're going to arrest you anyway. The mother is saying, look, she's autistic. Can't you see what's going on?
And 7 of them, by the way.
And 7 of them, exactly. Now, we've had, for instance, Harry Miller from Faircop on GBNews talking about that the West Yorkshire police are effectively like a criminal gang, that they were breaking into... This is breaking and entering and kidnapping is what he alleged there. Now, the West Yorkshire police are saying there is more information than we have. They're saying there's body cam footage, there's more context to this story than we know. And so it's only right that we make that point, that is the claim that they are making. But, Cressida, isn't it the case that given the level of concern that has been stirred as a result of this video, that if they do have some mitigating evidence, they should release it pretty sharpish?
Oh, yeah. I mean, wouldn't you be on it immediately? That's
Right.
It's just amazing. What are we now, like the second, third day of this? I mean...
Well, it's sort of incredible because, you know, particularly with the public order offence, it is not a public order offence for someone to say something within their own home. If it is true that they heard something that she said inside, forced their way into the house to arrest her, that's probably unlawful.
Is that being debated then? Because I heard she was on the stairs, but perhaps they mean in the home.
It's all very unclear, isn't it? And what I would suggest is, well, personally, I don't think the police should be arresting anyone for what they should say anyway, even if it is offensive. And there is this kind of move towards a situation where the police are continually trying to police people's social media posts, or, you know, even things like Christian preachers on the street quoting the Bible in some cases when they're saying things against gay people. It's like, I don't need to be coddled by the law. I can hear some crazy fundamentalist saying I'm going to hell, and I can deal with that. And because I think free speech is more important than my feelings, frankly. So,
well, and especially if you're a police officer at work. I mean,
Right.
I would make the assumption that one of the characteristics of being a police officer is that you're quite a rigorous character, and
You
that
would have thought.
a teenager who's saying rude things to you, even if she did, you'd think that feels pretty minor. So I look forward to finding out.
Ironically, they came into contact with this teenager because they were helping. They took her home because she was not controllable. They were called to help her during this parade because she's autistic. She had been drunk, apparently, so her sister called them, and they took her in the police car. And just as she was getting in, we don't know if she was beyond the threshold of the door.
We don't know.
But whatever.
But this is the problem, I think, with stories like this, when the police are getting such a rough ride over it. They should tell us what's going on.
Yeah.
They should be specific. OK, We're going to move on now to this story. What's Tony Blair been up to? Cressida, have you got this? It's in the Sunday Times.
Tony Blair Institute kept advising Saudis after Khashoggi's murder.
So we should clarify. So this is the murder of the Washington Post journalist Jamal Khashoggi. You remember this? You know, you remember what happened here? So
2018, I think, was it 2017?
Yeah. 2018.
He's living in Turkey because he's exiled from Saudi, right? So he's fallen out with the Saudis. There's a Saudi journalist who's written against the Saudi regime.
Yeah.
And he has to go to the Saudi embassy. I think, is it for his
Saudi consulate in Istanbul for some paperwork.
It was in
Istanbul. Right, so it's for paperwork. It's not meant to be a big deal. He's going to do something with his visa, something like that, and he gets murdered.
And dismembered. I mean, absolutely horrific crime. Now,
nobody's debating that. That seems to be... Well, the Saudis are debating it, but...
Well, they might be, but this article in the Times says that the Crown Prince approved the assassination.
The Crown Prince never accepted that, although a CIA investigation concluded that he had ordered, but the Crown Prince never accepted that.
So the CIA have determined that's why the Times can say quite definitively
that's the reason.
I see.
The Crown Prince said, I accept responsibility because it happened under my watch, but they said, essentially, there were some rogue elements that went beyond the arrest mandate.
So this is tricky. Tony Blair is getting into trouble here because the Tony Blair Institute has continued to work with and advise the Crown Prince and the Saudi regime as it currently stands. Now, this does raise some interesting questions because obviously this is a regime that is very backward, that is very regressive, but is in some ways making incremental changes towards being a more progressive society. So this kind of thing, political assassination or whatever it might be, if these things are going on, let's face it, there are other human rights abuses going on in Saudi Arabia. But does that mean that until they reach the level that we expect them to be at, we shouldn't advise, participate, interact with? Because doesn't that slow the progress?
Absolutely, and this is Tony Blair's defence, isn't it? It's sort of Dennis Rodman with Kim Jong-un kind of thing. Let's not stop talking altogether.
Yes.
So, you have to take that.
I mean, it's difficult, isn't it, Nicholas? I mean, it reminds me a bit of when the UK government were having secret talks with the IRA, even at a time when they were breaking ceasefire. But, you know, as politicians have explained, you know, this was the only way to reach the Good Friday Agreement, which they eventually did. So what do you do?
And the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia has made monumental reforms. Now women have started to drive in Saudi Arabia. They've been allowed into the movies, into stadiums. So he's gradually, and this is the big dilemma of the West. You can't win because you need to deal with these people. And in his defense, I mean, I'm a bit uncomfortable, but I'm defending Tony Blair because he was, together with Trump, they brokered these so-called Abraham Accords, which brought 2 or even 3 Arab states into peace deals with Israel, and they wouldn't have done it without the go-ahead from the Saudis. And Saudis might be actually next.
Exactly. So in order for progress to be made, we do have to keep these diplomatic channels open. I mean, but, you know, when you say it like that, you know, they've allowed women to drive. I mean, from our perspective, it's like, well, you know, good for you. Like, that's a bare minimum, right? But we're dealing with a deeply misogynistic society that sees women as second-class citizens, and gay people as second-class citizens. So they do need, you know, some sort of interaction with other states. Anyway, we're going to move on to the Observer, and this is what's this one? Oh no, sorry, this is not the. Oh no, it is Observer AI. We seem to be doing a lot of AI stories at the moment, Nicholas. Is there a general fear here? I mean, this is about. It could be bigger than the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah, among those 10 hours I had to kill, I went to watch Mission Impossible.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Has that been written by AI?
It was about AI.
Oh, I see.
Maybe next time it will be written by AI, but it was very much AI-oriented. So,
is that right?
So yeah, AI is all the rage, and today we were talking about left-leaning AI bias or allegations of AI bias.
No, that's true, because the ChatGTP won't write jokes about Kamala Harris, but will write jokes about Donald Trump.
Exactly.
So there you go.
God knows we've all tried.
So tell me, Nicholas, they're saying that this is going to be absolutely huge, but particularly when it comes to menial jobs, right? What do they mean?
Well, menial jobs is one aspect of the thing. Here, the Observer title says AI could have bigger impact on UK than Industrial Revolution, according to Mr. Dowden, who is a Deputy Prime Minister, actually. So the upside is that it can make government decisions much faster, hopefully more efficient. And he does mention that, believe it or not, the backlog in terms of asylum seekers applications. Yeah.
So what do you think? I mean, Cressida, I'm terrified about this, actually.
I am as well.
Look, I'm all for people having as much leisure time as possible. I think that's fantastic. I think we should go to a 4-day working week probably. But the point is, when robots are taking over absolutely everything, I worry about the efficiency and also the fact they're going to kill us.
Well, or even we might kill us. It has a disaffected people already exist. Tie them in with AI, and that enhances what they can get up to. Of course it does. I mean, it's anything that's enormously powerful in the wrong hands is enormously dangerous.
Yes, OK. Now I'm very mistrustful. OK, we're going to move on to this story now. In the Telegraph, what's this about? Potholes.
Pothole repair funding halves since 2006. We're spending less now than we did, and there's an increased number of potholes. The RAC are telling us this is a bad thing. The AA, all the pothole incidences are up. But, of course, we've just had Rishi Sunak telling us that he's on the side of the motorist.
I have to be honest, I've noticed more of these potholes. I've had to veer pretty much continually when I'm driving.
I'm not surprised. I mean, some of these numbers are just astonishing. And the Asphalt Industry Alliance are telling us that we need to spend more. Well, that's convenient for them, isn't it? They think
they might make money out of this.
They think that 1 in 5 local roads could be undrivable in the next 5 years unless billions are pumped into fixing them.
It's like McDonald's saying we need to eat more burgers, isn't it, really?
It is a bit.
Which is sort of fair enough. Nicholas.
It has been described by AA actually as a vote winner because local councils, you know, when it comes to elections, it counts a lot because a lot of people drive.
We don't like it.
If the Conservatives want to avoid disaster in the next election, maybe they need to start filling up some of those potholes.
OK, let's see what happens. OK, well, anyway, that is it for part 2. But coming up, TikTok teen trouble, the rise of the right-wing woman, and the most expensive same-sex kiss on record. Stay tuned for that.
That warm feeling inside. From Boxed Boilers, proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, I'm Marco Patagna. Here's your latest weather update from the Met Office. We'll see a mixed bag of weather across the UK over the next few days. There'll be some sunshine, but some rain too. But things will be turning warmer, certainly towards the middle part of the coming week. Low pressure's anchored towards the northwest of the UK at the moment. That's feeding a fair few showers in on the southwesterly breeze. And we'll need to keep an eye on this little feature running in from the southwest. That'll bring some more rain on Sunday night into Monday. Back to tonight, though, it's a case of clear spells and showers. The most frequent showers towards the north and west of the UK, some of them fairly heavy towards the northwest of Scotland. In the best of the clear spells down towards the southeast, temperatures holding up fairly well, actually, at 15 or 16 degrees, and falling no lower than 13 or 14 towards the north and northwest. As for Sunday, well, it's a day of sunshine and showers. The showers most frequent and most widespread on Sunday towards the north and northeast of the UK. A few heavy, perhaps even thundery ones around here. Whereas towards the south and east, it's a brighter picture, plenty of sunny spells around. And with lighter winds, and on Saturday, it should feel a bit warmer out and about. Temperatures peaking at 23 Celsius, 73 in Fahrenheit. Monday, there looks like being a pretty unsettled day across England and Wales. Outbreaks of quite heavy, potentially thundery rain working in from the southwest as we go through the day. Whereas towards the north and northwest, it's a day of sunshine and showers once again. And temperatures peaking in the high teens to low 20s. 23 down towards the southeast is 73 in Fahrenheit. Warming up though as we head toward the middle of the week. We could even see 30 degrees in 1 or 2 spots.
That warm feeling inside. From Boxed Boilers, proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
The Live Desk with me, Mark Longhurst.
And me, Pip Thompson. It's here Monday to Friday on GB News.
From midday, we'll bring you the news as it breaks, whenever it's happening and wherever it's happening, from across the UK and around the world.
Refreshing, feisty, but with a bit of fun too.
If it matters to you, we'll have it covered on TV, radio and online.
Join the Live Desk on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
So Jubes & Co, we tackle the issues of the day with real robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned.
I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In a world of dull and predictable radio and TV shows.
Oh, hi. On Mark Dolan tonight, we've got big guests. We drill into the big stories of the day. The show adds up to a brilliant listening and viewing experience. Mark Dolan Tonight is the most entertaining current affairs show ever, and that's a fact. That's Mark Dolan Tonight, Friday, Saturday and Sunday from 9. Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Like all families, we have arguments every now and then, but actually we agree on what the mission of GB News is, and that's the most fundamentally important thing.
GB News provides the kind of platform that lets all voices be heard. We don't hold back. We're free to say what we really think.
Just because some people who live in a tiny little Westminster bubble think that their particular story is important, that's not the most important story for me.
And often there will be difficult stories that you won't find on the establishment media.
Because what people think in the north of England may be very different to what they're thinking in the home counties.
We're going to carry on telling the world what life is really like for households up and down the UK.
We love to be in your car, in your kitchen as you're having your breakfast. Whatever you're doing, you are part of the show. If it matters to you, it matters to us.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, your first look at Sunday's newspapers. We're going to get straight back on with it with the Daily Star on Sunday. Heightened security in, what is it, Bexley Heath?
That's right. UK town on red alert with heightened security as shops brace for TikTok looters.
What does that mean?
Basically, one of the new damages that TikTok is doing to our society, besides making people become more vain and depressed and, questioning marriage, that was another video. All of it coming from China, where, by the way, it is forbidden in China itself. They have their own versions.
They've got a filtered, healthy TikTok.
Exactly.
Yeah, but they're just using it to collect data from other countries, right?
Yeah, and jeopardize Western societies, I'd say. But some of us have seen the footage of this collective looting in Oxford Street.
Yeah, well, they had a JD Sports trend on TikTok.
Exactly, that was the title of the event. Yeah,
extraordinary.
But what is going on with these kids? I mean, so now that they've because the thing is, criminals that organise on public forums, they're generally bad criminals, right? Because the police can just see this and like, OK, there's going to be a riot at Bexley.
Well, yes, but it's safety in numbers, isn't it? Because there's just swarms of these kids on Oxford Street causing trouble. There's only a few police
Why is this a trend? Why is breaking the law suddenly a trend?
Well, it's the breakdown of societies. Some people would say fatherlessness, some people... I mean, there's just...
But it's that combination of that with social media. I mean, you had that guy, Mizzy, become famous for breaking into people's houses and filming it, right? And idiots like that who do this kind of thing and intimidate people and,
a general sense of impunity.
Well, just because the police can't do it. So we've just had footage of similar things in the States. And I don't know if you've seen the guy who had a much smaller shop. It was his own shop, a Sikh guy, and he comes out with a stick and just beats this shoplifter to a pole. It was quite... When I first saw it, I thought, oh, my God, stop. And then I thought, well, no, grow up. That's what's going to happen, isn't it?
Yes.
And he's not going to face any charges.
Right.
So...
There is this sense of lawlessness now sort of increasing. I mean, I was in New York where, you can't get done for shoplifting so long as it's up to $1,000. Yeah, so people just go in and they just take $999 worth and they're fine.
You have chain stores who actively actually reprimand their staff for standing up to these thieves.
Yeah.
And then you have left-leaning prosecutors, surprise, and judges who don't even prosecute them.
I'm going to say something very right-wing here now, Chris. Do you think corporal punishment, bring it back?
Wow.
Is that the way to do it? I'm just saying, I was beaten by a nun at my convent school, and I turned out great.
You stopped shoplifting.
Yeah, I've never shoplifted since.
Do you know what? Personally, I'd still say no. But we had a thing recently, didn't we, where people were being asked if they thought prison sentences should be longer or shorter. So
you know what it is? Conscription.
Oh yes.
Just
well,
send
maybe.
all kids into the army. Child army. And they'll come back all sort of disciplined and they won't
Probably,
steal.
yeah, you probably can't argue with that.
Andrew's talking a lot of sense tonight.
I'm just playing around with my right-wing side. OK, we're going to move on to the next one. This is the Independent now. What's this? What's this one about? A band is being sued for a kiss?
Oh, yeah, that's me. Sorry. 1975, band sued for £2 million after Matty Healy breaks contract with same-sex kiss at Malaysia Festival.
Right.
So basically, they are there doing a festival, and they had already, the Malaysian authorities and the organizer claim that they had already signed a written contract promising to adhere to all the local laws and costumes. Remember that same-sex relations is illegal in Malaysia, Muslim majority country.
Yes.
And they have broken that. They have broken that promise, which has resulted in the government cancelling the whole festival outright. So that has cost, obviously, the organizer, other performers, the local community for whom this was part of their livelihood.
Yeah, but don't you think, Nicholas, when you come to a country where being gay is illegal, actually it's quite a good thing for a prominent group like the 1975 to have a gay kiss on
This is the thing, isn't it? We keep saying, oh, Sainsbury's, why are you waving your pride flags around when it's fine to be gay in Sainsbury's? So we've been saying this a lot. Why don't you take your protest to a country where it matters? Well, they have. But it still feels...
But they have signed a contract.
I mean, is it clear, though, Nicholas, because they signed a contract saying they would adhere to all local guidelines and regulations?
Yeah, and why do you think that contract would
why
say
did they
so?
Put specifically, don't snog on stage. Why didn't they do that? I think this is quite good. I think it's good that they should have gone further. I would have liked to have seen more.
Do you think they should pay the money? Because think of all the people that have lost out who would have made money from the festival. All the burger van, probably not burger
There's that
vans.
element, but I think the principle is quite important.
And I would say, okay, maybe we want to admire them for their activism. I'd say they shouldn't have signed the contract. They should have honoured their word. But also good on Malaysia for standing up for their values.
Interesting.
You know, we are so
Malaysians,
spineless
Nicholas?
in the West.
What about gay Malaysians?
Yeah, but you already took their side in terms of the activism. I made a premise. Okay, good for the band, all right? I'm willing to concede for the sake of argument. But also good on Malaysia, because unlike us spineless Westerners who cater to the newcomers or to the latecomers, you know, they have actually said, you know, this is our law, this is our country. I mean, they should have been even maybe put on trial.
Wow. Well, never say that we're not balanced on headliners. We've got both sides. Why are they called the 1975? Why are band names so stupid? What does that mean?
Because we're getting older. I've got no idea. I don't know. I don't even know any of their songs.
What does any of it mean? What does Destiny's Child mean? What does Fleetwood Mac mean? None of it means anything. It's all gibberish.
I don't know.
Makes me angry. OK, we're going to move on now to Sunday's Independent. What's this one? This one is about Pride. People spending lots of taxpayers' money on Pride. Sorry, this is in the Telegraph.
More than £500,000 taxpayers' money spent on Pride Month in public sector. So
Nicholas is going to be furious about this.
You will not like
I'm
this.
fuming.
You'll be furious. So specifically, that's in the public sector. So this is the police, local councils, things like that. So they've managed to spend that amount of money, and it's you know, it's on glitter and flags and all of that.
Rainbow lanyards and, like, you know, fluffy unicorns.
All of that fun stuff, but which, you know, we could argue about that. But the other thing that's really upset people is that they've also spent it on drag time story hour for kids.
Oh, I see.
Which people are very unhappy about because they feel that you shouldn't have sexualised things around children. I mean, it's... Yeah.
So that's a slightly different debate, isn't it? But I kind of think, you know, my worry about all of this is that the police should not be siding with any particular ideological group. It would be like if they'd spent £500,000 on Marxist paraphernalia. Exactly. I think we would all be a bit worried about that. And the problem with Pride now is it has become politicised in a very specific ideological way that actually a lot of gay people really hate and really oppose and see as homophobic. So are they spending £500,000 to be homophobic, Nick?
It has become kind of the religion of state, you know, together with the COVID vaccines. You know, if some of us have seen the pictures of Regent Street, you know, covered top to bottom in this ugly flag, by the way. We grew up. It reminds us of the Nazi marches in Nuremberg with all those flags, vertical flags, doesn't it? The omnipresent flag.
You wouldn't see that many Union Jacks flying.
Exactly.
No, when they had them on Regent Street and they had the Progress Pride flags, it was militaristic.
Quite a striking...
It did feel a bit chilling, actually, particularly if you don't believe in that ideology. It's a bit like when you go to some of the areas of Belfast or Derry and you know, you see the flags of the other side and you're walking through it and you think, it's a bit chilling because it's tribal, ultimately, you know?
Yeah.
And the point about this is taxpayers are paying an awful lot of money for this, you know? I don't understand. And then you've got Sadiq Khan, who's standing up in Trafalgar Square. This is a quote in the article. He says, "Trans rights are human rights, and I'm going to be campaigning for LGBTQIA plus community and campaigning for their rights." What rights don't they have? No one's ever been able to answer that.
Yeah.
What rights do they not have? Because as far as I'm aware, we all have equal rights.
The right not to be offended at a comedy club, for
I guess that's what it is. I guess that's what's going on. OK, we're going to move on to The Observer now. A story about right-wing women. So let's go over to GB News' very own Pearl Davis. Cressida.
Brilliant. I am absolutely not. Better martyrs, the growing role of women in the far-right movement. So this story is about women in the far-right movement. Sometimes they say alt-right. It changes throughout the piece. And it's that classic thing. It lists some social media ladies who are from the far-right community. And I clicked on the first one. I've lost her name. Don't know. I clicked on her and I watched her, and the first thing she talked about was Neo recently, the pop star Neo, has been in trouble for saying that he's gender critical. And his publicist then went ahead and released this apology on behalf of Neo. Neo came back and said, no, I don't know, I'm sticking to my guns. Anyway, that's an example of far-right opinion now. So the point is I would debate that to start with.
Right.
But we go through the article and there's lots of examples of what women get up to politically, what women's political activity is. It says researchers who track how the far right in the US mobilises, self-promotes and recruits are reporting that women are playing a growing role. And essentially, it's sort of a bit Lady Macbeth. It's like, well, women do the organising.
Right, I see.
Which isn't a huge surprise, is it? I mean, yeah.
What you think because women are more organised? That's all it is, you know. You're going to get men and women in every political movement. And,
yes.
You know.
I don't. It's as if. What did they think women were doing? Sitting at home and letting the men do the politics.
Well, because a lot of the alt-right women are sort of trad wives, so they would probably think they should be at home knitting and, you know, feeding the badger or whatever.
Well, I mean, historically, women have had a huge influence over humanity via the men, haven't they? Women have selected for men that have certain competencies or whatever, and so I don't find it surprising.
What do you think, Nicholas? You must know a lot of right-wing women.
I love these women. Some of them I follow avidly on social media. Essentially, The Observer has their knickers in a bunch. Can I say that?
Yeah.
Because these trad wives, and one of them is called trad wife, are very important, and they're making money on social media as well. Talk about empowering women.
Well, there we go. Well, look, that's it for part 3. But coming up in the final section, we'll have mushroom mayhem, robots out to get you, and crazy rich Arabians. See you in 2.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Jacob Rees-Mogg. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Now then, Lee Anderson here. Join me on GB News on my show, The Real World, every Friday at 7 p.m.
I'm not eating bloody cat. Are you
Delicious.
mental?
Open your mouth. OK, here comes a train.
Reminds me of the scene in Singing in the Rain.
Adam, is that a good one?
Whoa!
Join me at 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it. So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There'll be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything, I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media. We think different things, we've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference.
And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, your first look at Sunday's newspapers. We're going to jump straight back in with The Observer and a story about a very crooked house. No, not the Biden family home. What's it about?
People are sick of having our heritage knocked down, how the Crooked House saga became a state of the nation story. So, in the Black Country, this lovely old pub, the Crooked House, it's so crooked because in the Black Country they do a lot of mining, or they used to do a lot of mining.
Yes.
And so over time it's sunk, and you can go in, and what looks like a marble rolling uphill is one of the things that brings people in. So this is very quaint, very...
It's an old 18th century building.
Yes, yes, it was originally
But
a farmhouse. Not anymore. So it recently got sold, and it's now been burned down.
I understand, I know we shouldn't say anything definitive here, but the police are treating it as arson, or they certainly suspect arson. There are all sorts of rumours about an antique clock disappearing a day or two before the fire. The diggers that clean up the debris turning up the day before the fire. They even booked a band on the night of the fire called Gasoline and Matches. Look, I'm no sleuth. but you know what? I'm going to say that
It's Midsummer Murders.
the police do have a case. Here,
I think that's fair, yeah.
I mean, and also, this is really terrible because, Nicholas, these sorts of buildings in the Black Country and places like the Black Country, it's part of the heritage, isn't it, of the area? You know?
Yeah, and generally, especially with pubs, I mean, this pub was important and interesting on so many levels, but in general, loss of local pubs, because it's a hub for the whole community and people have a special relationship with these buildings. Yeah. All the more reason when they have also historic values.
Well, they're now saying that they want to rebuild it brick by brick, so we'll see what happens there. We're going to move to the Sunday Telegraph now, and what's this about unvaccinated driving instructors?
Yes, this was an unvaccinated driver instructor who has won a case. Unvaccinated driving instructor wins payout. Basically, because of his aversion to modern medicine, and he was not jabbed for COVID, he asked for overtime, he was denied.
Because he didn't have a second vaccine?
Well, that's what the judge has established now.
OK.
He had no vaccine because he doesn't consume any, he doesn't take any modern medicine unless in life-threatening situations.
But the DVSA had said that they needed him to be double vaccinated in order to take the overtime. Right?
Actually, they said they were going to monitor the situation, so they didn't come to say that specifically. Okay. But because on the same day, apparently someone else had managed to get it, and he was double jabbed, apparently, the judge ultimately sided with him that he had been discriminated against because of his strong belief that is part of his... Basically, the judge has elevated his attitude towards modern medicine to a religious belief.
I mean, there were lots of people, like particularly NHS workers, who were getting into a lot of trouble because they refused to be vaccinated. But ultimately, it's about individual choice, isn't it? We all have the right to refuse a medical procedure.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Nuremberg Code stuff, isn't it? Voluntary consent. I mean, I appreciate, as an employer, maybe they can do whatever they like. You know, we want to hire that person and not that person. Yeah. But I'm not really interested in his specific beliefs. I just think, well, if he doesn't want to take it, if he's not consenting, that's...
OK, well, we're going to move on to Sunday's Express now, and this is about, what is this, a new hit blockbuster, Robo-Traffic Cop.
Drivers warned to watch how they park or they could be towed by robots.
I mean, that's scary stuff.
Well, yeah, I've watched the video.
That is dystopian.
Yes.
Right there.
Although it's not that dystopian, because about 5 yards away from this machine, there's a man with a remote control doing it. So...
There is at the moment until you start getting AI involved.
Yes.
And they decide which cars to tow.
Yes, this is the point. But it still has to get put on the back of a lorry. When I watched the video, I was thinking, how's this going to work? And it's a robot that picks up the car and puts it on a lorry.
So, Nicholas, this is absolutely terrifying. So you accidentally park in a place you shouldn't park, and all of a sudden you've got Ed 209 there saying you have 20 seconds to comply. It's horrible.
At least it gives you a heads up. You know, I mean, if that's the worst the robots are going to do to us, I wouldn't be that concerned.
OK, well, and finally, we've got a story now about foraging. This is in the Mail on Sunday, Cressida.
Deadly rise of foraging, the foodie trend responsible for thousands of poisonings each year as 3 Australians die after eating wild mushrooms. The moral of the story is stick to blackberries. It turns out mushrooms are really complicated.
No, there are loads of different types of fungi, and people think that they've checked out in a book and they're like, oh, well, that one's safe, I can go and eat. Why would you go through the forest eating? Look, it's very sad that these people died, but come on, why are people foraging for mushrooms? You know, why not just go to Sainsbury's? What's going on, Nicholas?
I mean, you might say it's part of, you know, this trend of going back to the origins, to the roots, being in touch with, you know, the nature and all that. But yeah, when it comes to mushrooms, caution.
It's a trend thing then, isn't it? It sounds very hipsterish, I have to say. OK.
Yeah.
All right, well, the show is nearly over, so we're going to have another quick look at Sunday's front pages before we end. So the Sunday Times is running with tougher A-level grading vital to halt university dropout surge. The Sunday Telegraph has ministers want more barges for asylum seekers. The Observer is leading with Channel boat deaths prompt fresh anger over asylum policy. The Sunday Mirror is leading with how many more must die before Tories get a grip. Sunday Express going with the same story there, for pity's sake, stop the boats. And the Daily Star, some nonsense about aliens. That's all we've got time for. Thanks so much to my guests, Cressida Wetton and Nicholas DeSanto. Headliners is back tomorrow at 11 p.m. with Josh Howie, Paul Cox and Lewis Schaefer. And if you're watching the 5 a.m. repeat right now, then please do stay tuned because it's time for breakfast.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, I'm Marco Patagna. Here's your latest weather update from the Met Office. We'll see a mixed bag of weather across the UK over the next few days. There'll be some sunshine, but some rain too. But things will be turning warmer, certainly towards the middle part of the coming week.